Why are we so offended? Does it impact anyone? Hey guys, TazzyPhe here. How is it going? Welcome. So I saw this headline of a woman who faked her race and was recently outed by her family, and I was intrigued. The American Friends Service Committee's White Chief of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, that's a lot of words, she's been exposed for pretending to be of Latina, South Asian, and Arab descent. She couldn't just choose one flavor. Okay, she went to the ice cream shop. She said, they all taste good. Let me get 3 scoops.
Ma'am, the shop is closed. Cone is actually for me. I get.
Raquel Evita Saraswati, who was born Rachel Elizabeth Seidel, was exposed by none other than her mother, who said that her family was white as the driven snow. I don't know what that means. I think it just means she's white. But I immediately thought of Rachel Dolezal. If you haven't heard of her, you're missing out, because that whole thing was a trip. Okay, she was a woman who also faked her race, but she was the president of a chapter of the NAACP, and she maintains to this day that she feels black. I think she also threw a little bit of native in there. You know, you always gotta add more than 1 scoop. 1 flavor is just not enough, I guess.
Are you African American?
I don't understand the question.
Are your parents, are they white?
She has no words. I have no words. Actually, I do have words, so I'm a liar. Just like, because in today's video, I want to talk about race. I want to talk about what it is as a concept, and the reasons why someone would fake their race, and whether any of it even matters at all. Like, who cares, right? If someone fakes their race, why does it bother you? Does it? Does it impact you? We'll talk about it. So let's get into it. First thing, let's talk about the myth of race. I think when we say the word race, most of us have an understanding of what that means.
Hang on, baby Jesus, this is gonna get bumpy.
No. The other race.
There's only one race. The human race. What about NASCAR?
Okay, let's be serious for a second. Race is the categorization of people, humans, based on shared physical or social qualities into groups, generally viewed as distinct within a given society. So if you go to the US Census website, for example, there's 5 minimum categories for people in the US. And I know that there's more categories. I think they've built some subcategories, but these are the most commonly grouped. So you got white, black, native, Asian, Pacific Islander / Hawaiian. So this has confused a lot of people from the Middle East, for example, because they're categorized as white, or people from Latin America. There's a whole history behind that.
If you were of Mexican birth or ancestry in the United States in 1929, you were considered white. Then the 1930 census changed that to non-white to limit immigration. Later, when the US needed to increase its labor force during World War II, these people were switched back to white.
Well, you know, there's actually a lot of history on this, and I'm not going to cover it because I want to get back to talking about this, but you guys should check it out. It's pretty interesting. Now, another thing that I have to mention is that when you look up what the meaning of race is, when you do research on what it is, you're going to actually find that although it's real, it's not a biological fact. Wow. Mind blown. So we build all these categories, and for what? For what? Why did you do that? Is it in your bones? It's actually not. Okay, so yes, we vary genetically, but scientists, biologists, and anthropologists are saying that it's a social construct. It's not something, it's still confusing. In a Scientific American article, Svante Paabo, a biologist and director of the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, that's a lot of words, in Germany, was quoted saying, "What the study of genomes from different parts of the world has shown is that even between Africa and Europe, for example, there is not a single absolute genetic difference, meaning no single variant where all Africans have one variant and all Europeans have another one. Even recent migration is discarded." It still didn't make sense to you? Okay, I don't know how else to explain it though. So it's not a biological fact. But when you want to divide and conquer, enslave, colonize, when you just want to slap people, you put them into a sorting hat.
When I call your name, you will come forth. I shall place the sorting hat on your head, and you will be sorted into your houses.
So in a way, are we saying that it's made up? Like race is made, we made it up? Well, I did this video with Chani a while back, who's originally from Somalia, and she talked about how she never thought of herself as black until she left, because that wasn't a distinction. It wasn't even a thing.
Like everybody just kind of told me what I had to be, and I always had to be something, I had to be black, or I had to be Somali.
So yeah, although race is real and we understand what it means, in some ways it's a myth. But then if we're just making up categories, does that mean that you can choose a category like Miss Raquel? Can we just say, hey, tomorrow I want to be this? Can you be transracial? Is that a real thing? There's this guy who just really likes Korean culture. So he's like, I'm going to adopt it. I'm going to do plastic surgery to look more Korean. And now
I identify as Korean. I used to live in Korea. I was living there for 1 year. I love the culture. I love the history, the people. You know, I've put myself through a lot of pain. I've had a lot of surgical procedures to have more of a Korean aesthetic. I spent a lot of time learning the language, learning how to cook Korean foods. I came out earlier this year sharing that with the world. People didn't really get it. Not everybody will understand straight away, but I hope over time people will be kind of more accepting with me.
I mean, personally, I don't think that you can just wake up and decide that you're going to be another race. I mean, like you can, but that doesn't mean that everybody else has to accept or be okay with that or play into your delusion, sorry. Especially if you're masquerading as this caricature and you're leading diversity and inclusion efforts. There's something really, really twisted about that, isn't it? Like there's something like very Black Mirror. But the first thing that I think when I see someone like Raquel is, why would you do that? It befoozles me, behuvergasted. Because which gets me to the next part of the video. The reasons why someone would fake their race. I think that there are several reasons that someone would fake their race. The first being that I think there's this desire to fit in or have a sense of belonging. Sometimes people are just really lonely, and there is a sense of community that comes from certain cultures that are maybe less individualistic than, let's say, American culture or other Western countries. So I can see why someone for that reason would be like, I kind of like this one a little bit more and I want to be a part of it. I just want to be loved. But I'm sorry, it's still weird to be like, morphing time. Let me transform myself into that. Like, and why do you think that you would get away with that? Like, you really think people are not going to tell on you? Like, somebody is going to tell on you. And the fact that it's people's own mothers, sisters, fathers, that's kind of sad. I also have this theory that like white people's cultures have been watered down as the immigration process from different countries has just like taken decades. And so like maybe they lose that sense of connection with each other. But I think that, but then when you see like a group of white people and what they bond over, you're like, no, you guys definitely have like a sense of community, like for sure. Another reason I think people probably fake their race is because they hate themselves or they're dealing with some sort of internalized racism. And that could like extend to anything. I think with the waves of wokeisms, there have been a lot of white people who started to hate themselves, whether it's guilt or whether it's like, oh, my ancestors did this. You know, I'm all for talking about issues in society and, you know, making jokes. I make jokes about what white people say, you know, some really funny, ridiculous things to me. Sometimes my life is literally an episode of The Office. But you know what? I draw the line. I draw the line at calling people mayo. That is not right. Why did you call them Wonder Bread? That's not nice. I mean, it also goes the other way as well. I talk about these two Pakistani girls living in Dubai in another one of my videos, the Desi Inferiority Complex. And, you know, they faked being Arab. It's probably because Pakistanis are not really considered cream of the crop in the UAE. But I dive into that in a different video, so you guys can check that out. But you also have like a big example like Michael Jackson, right? He went from this to this. So faking your race comes in all shapes and forms. And I think there's many reasons that people do it, but there definitely has to be an underlying, like, I hate myself, I hate my people or something. And the last reason why I would think that someone would fake their race is to get ahead in society. So I think that sometimes people do that to get certain opportunities, to rise in the ranks of social hierarchy, you know, like the guys named Muhammad who are like, oh, you can call me Mike, or like this Indian guy who did this weird thing, or even blackfishing, you know, like this fetishization of a group of people taking on these perceived traits of another race and then using them for your own personal gain, like your own clout, like to look more, I don't know what, it's obviously done something for the Kardashians, right? You know, if another person wants to be another race and just decide and be like, I'm gonna be this, who cares? Like, does it even affect you? Does it even matter? Like, why are we so offended? Does it impact anyone? So I'm gonna start by reiterating that race may be a myth, but racism is very much real.
We call them expats.
Right. White people have such a different way of classifying themselves that white immigrants are expats and non-white immigrants are immigrants. So when we say immigrants, if we go to border control, we can go there, Yarlswood, and we go and look at who's there. It's not a bunch of white people from New Zealand. So we have structural forms of privilege and bias that are much more insidious and much more difficult to overcome.
When you reduce race to a thing that you can just choose or walk into, you're basically saying that it's a choice. But it's not. You're just a con man or woman, whatever. You're tricking people. You are a modern day sleuth. I don't know what that means. But I mean, it wasn't that sleuthy. I do know what it means, but you're not really a sleuth because you got caught. Okay, personally, I'll be honest. I don't care if this guy says he's Korean, but I'm not Korean. So let me give you a different example because that doesn't affect me. But even if a white woman came to me tomorrow and said, hey, I'm Pakistani because I feel like it, and she starts undergoing procedures, I don't care. I'm just being honest. It doesn't affect me. I would be like, girl, you have some deep-rooted issues. You should get to the bottom of those. But like, not my monkeys, not my circus, not my circus, not my monkeys. You know what I'm saying? But listen though, I would argue that when someone like Raquel or Rachel is working with a group or organization whose purpose is to push forward marginalized groups and do activism, and that's literally what they're there for. When you go and cosplay a race by playing into stereotypes and you make this like caricature, it's so ironic. You make these groups look stupid, like a joke, and then these organizations, these movements lose credibility, and you are responsible for that. You are causing real harm. So I don't think it's totally harmless. It also depends on your like influence in society, right? Like if you're a big figure and there are people who look up to you, do you have a responsibility to them? What are you teaching them? What are you teaching them by saying like, yeah, I hate myself, so let me change my race and pretend to be Arab, or let me pretend to be white, or let me pretend to be, I don't know, like whatever you want, I guess. I mean, I think that also has an impact. So that's another thing. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below because it's just wild. Like, what are people do? What's happening? That's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great night or morning or whatever else in between. All right, TazzyPhe, out. Bye.